Hello. Welcome, everyone. Happy Tuesday. We are going over some mastery level stuff today, which is verbal cues and pausing inside of your calls. So drop below what you sell in the chat so we can make this a little bit relevant to your industry. Hashtag live if you're watching live, hashtag replay if you are watching the replay, just so we have a little bit more context. We're going to be jumping straight in here, if that's okay. I try to make these as informative as possible. And I think just to start off, we need to know like what the hell are verbal cues so that we can kind of use them, right? Sometimes like our brain can't do two things at once. Could you possibly, thank you. Could you anyway grab me a water really fast? Yeah, thanks, Nick. All right, we have advertising in the house, technology in the house, fitness design, life insurance. All right, let's go. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. SaaS. All right, so lots of stuff. So what's a verbal cue and what are verbal pauses? A verbal cue, well, I guess the best way to describe this is like, have you ever been on a sales call? And during the sales call, it felt like you were being interrogated in an FBI interrogation room. Or maybe even been like on a date and they're just asking you tons of questions like, what about this? What about this? And like you feel like you're in an interrogation. That is you. Just put me in the chat if you've ever experienced that. Or maybe you're in sales and then you've been on a sales call with somebody else and it felt like a sales call. You're like, oh God, like how many questions is this person going to ask me? And what we want to do inside of our sales calls is for it to feel genuine, for it to feel authentic, for it to feel real, so that you actually want to sell, so you actually want to do what you want to do. Somebody said like that happened to her today. See, exactly, right? So if we can learn how to do this in a way that actually feels normal and authentic and genuine, we won't have that issue, right? I don't think any of you want to feel like a scripted robot or like an FBI investigator on your sales calls. Like that's not really what we want to create here. We want to create something that feels natural and alignment. So a verbal cue, the best way that I could possibly describe this, which let's go to the next page on here, is essentially like you're creating a bridge from one question to another, right? So part of NEPQ, what you're doing is you're creating different type of questions to elicit certain emotions. People buy with emotion, right? They justify with logic. So we're trying to elicit emotions through our questions, which is in the connecting stage, we're asking connecting questions. Then we're asking about their situation questions. We're asking about problems and problem awareness questions, so on and so forth. So how do you connect the question? So let's say in your sales script, each one of these lines represents a question that you're asking, okay? Every single line represents a question. We're trying to get information, right? Like we're trying to understand a little bit about their situation. And then from there, we're asking deeper and deeper into the call. So instead of you asking a question, they give you an answer, and then you ask the next question, you would use what we call a verbal cue. And a verbal cue bridges the gap. They bridge the gap in between each question so that it feels conversational. It feels like you're having a normal, genuine conversation, right? And you have to create this flow of conversation that's happening. Now, how the hell do you do that? What are the verbal cues that you're using to create the flow? So I actually brought this up. Let me write these down for you. Something that you could say is like, ah. You could say, right. Oh. That's interesting. Really? Uh-huh. I see. Oh. Okay. Now I know it sounds like, what the heck is she talking about here? But I'll give you an example here. So let's say let's say your prospect is going, well, let me see, what example can I use? Let's say you're selling like marketing services, right? And you're asking a little bit about situation questions to understand how they're bringing in leads, right? You're selling lead generation, lead marketing services. So let's say the prospect, you went through and you asked how they're bringing in new leads, and now you're finally on a call. So you're finally on a call with this person, and you're asking them, like, what's going on, and telling them a little bit about why they're there today. And the prospect says, like, look, man, like, let me make this more feminine. Let's say the prospect looks at you and is like, man, Kayla, right now we're just trying to figure out how to bring in new leads. That's really what we're trying to figure out right now. And what were you doing right now to bring in new leads and clients, though? So let me do that again. So prospect says to me, right now we're really just trying to figure out how to bring in new leads. Well, what are you doing right now, though, to bring in new leads and clients? Prospect says, well, we're doing organic outreach, paid ads through Facebook, a little bit of YouTube. Oh, well, how long have you been running ads through Facebook, though? Okay, so let me redo that again. Prospect comes to me. Right now, we're really just trying to figure out how to bring in new leads. Well, what are you doing right now to bring in new leads and clients, though? Well, we're doing organic outreach, a little bit of YouTube, paid ads through Facebook. How long have you been doing paid ads through Facebook, though? Oh, for about 10 months. Oh, well, what caused you to go that route versus just another search engine, though? I'm trying to bridge the gap in between each question. Well, what about this? Oh, what about this? Well, when you said this, I see. Okay, so when you said this, I'm trying to make it sound conversational. Now, if you're learning how to do this, this could feel a little bit awkward. Okay, this could feel a little bit awkward as the person that's delivering how to do this, right? That's learning how. I'm gonna hide that. It's distracting. It's gonna sound a little disingenuous for you when you're first starting to learn how to do this. When you're like, well, how do you do this? It's gonna sound weird when it's coming from you to say that, because you're not used to it. But what's happening on the other side is that instead of you saying, oh, awesome. Got it. Oh, okay, great. Oh, okay. Oh, well, what about, this is what I hear the most of the time. I hear, great, gotcha, okay. Awesome. I don't know if any of you are my awesome people. Every single thing that they say, awesome. And you go to the next question and it just sounds super awkward versus making them feel like you're thinking about what to say next. Okay. It needs to feel conversational, right? And I'll go into another example later. But my purpose of showing you this is that you need to show your prospect a few things, right? You need to show them that you are present in this conversation. You are here with them. You are here listening to them. And when they're saying things, you're picking up on nuances of what they're saying. Let's say that they say something that you don't understand, that you need clarity on. Well, Sally, when you said this, what did you mean by that? Just so I have more context. A verbal cue can allow you to insert into the conversation without it feeling abrupt, without it feeling like you're taking up too much space. Your friends like you the most when they feel like you're present in the conversation. Have you ever been on a date when the guy was just like fully present on you, like nothing mattered in the world? His phone didn't matter, nothing mattered. All he wanted to do is just be there with you and like lost in a moment, hanging on to every word that you said. Like the date felt like it lasted forever, because being present is like one of the most beautiful gifts that you can give to somebody, right? You being present with your prospect and giving those cues, like really listening and cueing them that you're listening, going into the next sentence without it feeling like you're just waiting your turn to ask the next question, is going to transform your sales calls because it feels like you're actually having an authentic, genuine conversation, which you are, and sometimes you need to give them a little bit of cues just so that they understand that you're with them, that you're on their team. If you're on the phone, sometimes it can also prevent the issue of somebody saying like, are you still there? I don't know if you've ever had that where somebody's kind of elaborating about their pain and they're like, oh, hey, are you still with me? Because you're so silent. It's going to eliminate that issue if you're having that as well. We want this to sound conversational and natural, and not like you're feeling scripted or not feeling rehearsed. And the biggest thing here is that we want this person to let their guard down, right? How can we get them to let their guard down and open up to you, being willing to open up to you? And they're going to feel like it's okay to let their guard down when you are present, when you are with them, because they feel like you care, like you're on the same team with them, that you're really listening, that you're really being there in the moment versus rushing to the next question. Oh, they answer this. Oh, I can answer this. Oh, they answer this. Now I can ask this. Like you guys are so like in a rush to get through the sales conversation because you feel awkward. And awkward energy is created within you. You create awkward energy. So you either feel awkward or you don't know what you're doing. And whenever you don't feel like you know what you're doing, you check out mentally versus being there and being present. Anytime you feel like yourself is drifting, it's because you're bored or you don't know what you're doing. So like allow yourself to get back into that moment and being present with them. Let's say somebody tells you something about like a painful moment. And they say that let's say that they're with any other competitor, right? And I'm trying to find out if they'd be like possibly open to like find some areas where there could be problematic things there so that we can possibly move over to my company, right? Let's say that I'm selling some type of service, right? And they're with XYZ company. Well, Sally, who do you, if it's okay to ask, who do you use for XYZ? Oh, well, we use this. Well, yeah, they're a fairly, decent company. What exactly, do you like about, the services that they provide for you? Being specific, I'm giving you general answers. You want to say services they provide for you, you would be a little bit more specific. What do you like about them providing the services XYZ? Oh, we like this and this and this and this. So you notice what I'm doing. I'm giving verbal cues. Let's go back. Well, would you change anything about, the services that you're getting with them? Like, if you could? Now I'm adding some verbal pauses in there, which we're going to go into in a second. But what I'm doing is I'm making this feel like I'm thinking, well, what about this? Let's say I'm going into some painful moments with somebody and we're talking about maybe like an insurance policy. And I find out that, if worse things happened, that everything would go to their daughter and they were trying to financially protect their daughter. And I'm asking, well, like, Sally, would you want to leave this? Actually, I might have a better example of that. Do you really want to leave this, where your daughter would have to pay for all this financially out of her own pocket if you didn't have to? Well, no, of course I wouldn't want that. Well, how does that make you feel though? And how would that make you feel? Right? I'm trying to like use these cues to go into the next sentence and the next sentence and the next question. I never say my okay, awesome. I just take and I hold space for them and I add that cue to go and I bridge into the next moment. It's not feeling awkward for me personally. I only have 30-minute convos. I still sass and sometimes I'm covering enough pain in a short amount of time. Yeah. So with you, right at the beginning of that conversation, they have to think outcome-based thinking. at the very beginning. If you try to explain stuff or try to teach or try to educate, like it's not going to work. We have to go into outcome-based thinking as fast as possible. Yeah, so it looks like, you had booked on the calendar today about possibly wanting XYZ software so that you can do XYZ result, right? So that you can, you know, um, block firewalls so that you don't lose information to your competitors. I'm just giving you a random example, but what does that software do and what the outcome would be for the company? Yeah, it looks like you booked on the calendar for a little bit today about possibly wanting X so that you can get this. What really prompted your attention to even want to take this call with us in the first place, just so I can understand? And then going straight into the stuff, right? Understanding what the pain is. You need to uncover the pain, and the verbal cues are going to help you do that. What do you typically have in place for XYZ software now so that you can get XYZ result? Oh, okay. And right. And so you're just going underneath the surface. Oh, we already use a company for that. Oh, well, who do you use? Just like digging, you're digging, digging, digging. So if you don't know how to ask deep enough questions, it's going to be hard to build a deep enough gap in order for them to feel that tension. They need to feel tension in order for them to want to make a change, right? And especially with B2B, it's not a one call close. Sometimes it's a 4 or 5 call close. You need to understand on that call what the next steps are, getting pre-commitments. Oh, you want to meet with so and so, right? Well, if we meet and they like everything that we go over, what would be the next steps at that point? And really just getting to the next step, the next step, the next step. And the easiest way to do it in B2B is to show up not needy. You're a knowledgeable expert. If you get on a call and somebody says, oh, we only have 30 minutes here, flipping the script around. Oh, yeah, you seem like you have a lot of time in your hands. I have about 20 minutes here before I have to hop onto my next appointment. Should we get started? Just flipping the script, like taking ownership of like, hey, I'm the knowledgeable expert here. I'm the boss, and I'm going to help support you. And they need to respect you in that situation. Let's go into verbal pausing. Dun, 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 dun. So verbal pausing is one of the most hardest things to do because it requires this beautiful thing called self-control. Okay, I was talking with my clients earlier today, and I was talking to them about handling objections. I was like, let's say somebody throws an objection at you. Sometimes their mouth is working faster than their brain. And normally an objection is a flight or fight response. So it just comes out of them and it's not thought out. Sometimes doing a verbal pause at that moment for 5 to 8 seconds is like the most beautiful thing that you can do to just hold space. Yeah, we really need to think this over. Sometimes it's enough silence in order for them to feel uncomfortable and want to explain themselves, wanting their brain to think. But use verbal pausing throughout your sales conversation, especially when you're trying to land a point. Verbal pausing causes prospects to pay attention. It maintains this beautiful thing called curiosity. It causes them to think deeper about what you're asking. And it causes this internal tension to where the prospect feels like they need to change, like they have this want to change. And prospects cannot feel their pain unless you get them to start thinking. They need to be thinking and sitting in that pain in order for them to start to really feel it. And when you slow down, you cause your prospect to think even deeper and not have an immediate answer that would be surface level. So when I pause and I really land something, it causes them to like really like sit with what I'm saying. I'm going to give you an example in a second. And you don't have to pressure or push or do all this work. Like instead, your prospects start to pull you in, right? And they start to persuade themselves. So let's do an example of that. Like let's say that you are in cybersecurity, okay? And again, you can just do this to any industry. I'm just making it cybersecurity specific. So, like, are you 100% Okay, basic question. Are you 100% satisfied with the way your fraud stack is set up? Okay, basic question, right? Now I can ask that in many different ways. Are you 100% satisfied with the way that your fraud stack is currently set up? Okay. Versus, are you 100% satisfied with the way that your fraud stack is set up right now? They're two different facts. I'm doing an emphasis on the word satisfied and I'm putting a pause in between. The reason why is because most people are not 100% satisfied with anything. So it causes them to be like, oh, I'm not 100% satisfied. And they're going to open up and tell me what they don't like about it. Okay. So again, are you 100% satisfied, with how your fraud stack is currently set up right now? Notice my tone. Notice like the pause there. I'm pausing. Now they're thinking. They're like, oh, no, I'm not. Right? Here would be another example. Like, let's say that you're in lead generation services. So, Sally, you've been advertising on Indeed for the last 12 months. Do you like, the results that you're currently getting? Okay. There's a pause there. I'm chill. I don't need to come in and bulldoze anything. I need them to sit with themselves and think. It's gonna require a level of self-control on my end. You've been advertising on Indeed for the last 12 months. Do you like the results that you're getting right now? Right? Let's say we're in insurance. Let's do an insurance example. Let's say they have a work policy, right? So you got this work policy. Feel okay, so let's say that you are talking to somebody who has a work policy and we want to put a gap in their mind to really think about how this policy is not fully taking care of all their needs, right? So in this example, well, Sally, you said that you've got this work policy. What's caused you to feel that that's not enough, though? Okay. And notice my facial expressions. Regardless if you're even on a call, on a Zoom call or whatever, I'm still going to use my body language. I'm still going to use my facial expressions because it's going to change the tonality in my voice. Just like in a Disney movie, when it's a cartoon and the guy's in the back and he's with the microphone, he's doing all these vivid bodily expressions because it changes the tonality in his voice, right? So here I want their brain to just sit with what I'm saying, right? So Sally, you've got this, work policy in place. What's caused you to feel that that's not enough, though? Right? I'm getting them to think. And you can use this with any situation, right? Your girlfriend's dating this really weird guy, and you can be like, hey, he seems like you're, doing well. May I ask, what do you like about Bob? She's like, oh, I like XYZ. Well, do you feel like you would change anything about Bob? If you could? I'm getting her brain to just sit there and think. That's all I need this person to do. Think. Let's say I'm in B2B, right? I'm getting them to think about how this decision is possibly making them lose out on money every single month. Maybe this decision is possibly making their employee retention crap, right? Like I'm just getting them to think about the pain here, and verbal pausing allows them the ability to do it. So, if, and I want to leave this open to like Q&A really fast, but if you are wanting to understand like how to use these verbal cues and pausing like in your current script, we're always like happy to help and support you. I think that we have like 10-15 minute calls. You can just DM me on Facebook or on Instagram, wherever you're on. Kayla Living Boldly is my handle pretty much everywhere. Just DM me directly and ask to hop on a role-playing call with one of my teammates, and we're happy to go over this with you and kind of listen to you overcome objections. Objection handling is a really great place for pausing and tonality and verbal cues, because it sounds like sometimes you like come in for war. And I made a joke about this morning. Sometimes it's like you finally figure out what to do. So like, let's say like you finally know how to overcome money objections, right? Okay, somebody says, I get so awkward when I have to build tension. It makes me feel so uncomfortable. I love it. You're right. Definitely need to implement the pause, right? So anytime that I feel awkward, I know it's coming from me, right? If your intention is to serve, like I know what you sell, but most things that you're just serving somebody, you're helping them. So if you just focus on like, I'm going to help this person by understanding that there's going to be consequences if they don't move forward, like it's going to help you with that feeling uncomfortable feeling, right? But what was I saying? Okay, so sometimes it's like you guys finally figure out how to overcome an objection. You're like, okay, I know how to overcome money objections. And then you're in a sales call. And then they give you an objection. And instead of you just like holding space for a moment and like naturally helping them like work through it, it's like you're like, all right, let's go, money objection. You come for it, right? You like come for like, hey, like let's overcome this. And you're like claws are out, you're ready. It's just like so awkward. And you're asking the next question versus like slowing down and having some self-control here. It's going to work. If somebody says, hey, like, I just don't really know, this is a little bit out of my price range, go back into verbal cues. Yeah, that's not a problem, diffusing. Well, may I ask, or disarming? Sally, can you help me understand when you say it's a little bit out of your price range, what you mean by that specifically? Just, so I have some more context here. Right? There's the pausing. I use verbal cues. I'm slowing down. I have a good tonality. I'm holding space. Now they're like, oh, she's on my team and she's going to tell me what she means by that. Oh, well, we just moved some money around. This and this is happening. Now I understand her situation. And then I can go into handling it. Well, money aside, do you even feel like this is the answer for what you're looking for? Well, yes, I do. Why? May I ask why? Why do you feel like that though? Well, because of this and this and this. And then go back into getting them to commit again, right? Well, what would be more risky? You doing nothing and you still having this XYZ problem and ABC problem and this is happening, these consequences are happening, or possibly investing in this and then you be able to have like XYZ result. What would be more risky? And you holding that space and you getting the self-control here is going to allow you so much more opportunity to understand how to navigate these certain situations. When you don't and you're guessing, like, oh, it's going to be so difficult. But, we want to help support you. We want to serve you. Like, that's always been my number one priority, especially for my ladies. Like, I want you women to learn how to acquire the skills. Like, the sad truth is that if you're like, hey, I'm just going to get it one day, and you're working so hard and you're just trying to make it happen for yourself, like it's going to be a long time before you figure it out on your own. Like, learn from our mistakes, learn from us of really trying to dial in this process, training 158 different industries at this point and being able to really support you with what to do. So you don't have to keep worrying about what to say next and what to do next. Like it's not hard. It's just a skill. And unless you have somebody sit there and teach you how to use the skill, it's like you're freaking throwing mud against the wall and like hoping and praying, like hopefully I close a deal today. I remember those days. I remember those days of waking up and be like, dear God, please, you know my rent is due tomorrow, like make it happen. Please make it happen, you know? And it wasn't until I took a step back and I acquired more skills that I was able to actually, you know, take care of my family in a way that I never thought I could before. I can't seem to close the gap with digging deeper when it comes to closing. I always get through all the presentation, but I feel stagnant when digging for the why factor. Okay, well, what are you using, right? If you're using an EPQ, your presentation is really crafted to the individual. If you're not, the presentation can feel like you're just giving information. And if it's just giving information, sometimes they check out. So like you've already probed and you've gone deeper in the call, they feel the pain, and then you go through a presentation slideshow. And if you're talking in your presentation for more than 5% of your sales call, you lost a sale typically. So that could be possibly what it is, right? But again, like I need to see, know about your process. If you you just DM us to get on a quick role play, we can give you some feedback on your role play. So just like, hey, can we get on a role play call really fast? And then I'll book you in with one of our girls so they can listen to you and give you some feedback on your call. And then maybe like something that you're possibly saying or not saying could be causing that resistance or could be causing them to not want to close at the end, right? So I said I probably self-sabotage so many times as far as the whole sale because of it. Totally shifts your perception. Yeah, guys, you've got this. You got this. Yeah. Okay, perfect. So my team, please make sure that we help her set her up. Make sure she gets on a role play with us, 10, 15 minutes. We'll help support you as much as we can. But yeah, so I think that we have a masterclass that's going to be coming up on the 21st. We'll have more information about that soon, going over objections, really deep dive. Other than that, like, what are you going to do? You know, because you can keep doing the same thing every single day and like hoping for a different result. Or is it less risky if you just allow yourself to figure out what you're going to do in order to obtain more skills? And I think that that's true. And I would never say anything for anyone to do unless I'd be willing to do it myself. Like right now, my company was acquired by 7th Level. And with us being acquired by a large corporation and me wanting to be in a position where I understand like how to lead large teams, one thing that I noticed was like, hey, like a lot of the people that we're pulling in, like our CFO is like a big guy on Wall Street, and there's different components to running a corporation versus a small business. So one thing that I just did was I'm registered for like Harvard Business School online to take their corporation leadership courses so that I can understand how to do that more. Hence my jacket today. I just finished signing up for everything today. So I would never ask you to like fill that gap. You can take some time and years to figure this out on your own, or you can take a little bit of time and figure out where your gap is and then obtain the skills so that you don't have to worry about it anymore. What's the main difference over the phone with B2B and B2C? B2C is typically a 1 to 2 call close, and B2B can be a 4 to 5 call close. Typically cycles with B2B can even be up to 9 months. B2C can be a day, right? So those are going to be your biggest differences. It's about finding who are the key players that need to be in this conversation so you can make a decision. All right, ladies. Message my team about that. So just send me a DM really fast in regards to like speaking to people, and I'll present it to my team and we'll see what we can do. I have to get everything approved by our board. What if your service is about 4 to 5 calls is not worth it at that point? Typically, if you're selling B2B, the reason why it's sometimes 4 to 5 calls is because you have to have other people involved. So if you're selling only $1,000 service, maybe that can be approved by just like one person versus having to present it to a board, present it to, you know, so again, it just depends on the industry and what you're selling. All right, ladies, I hope you all have an amazing day. I will see you super soon. DM me if you want to get on a role play with us, and freaking get it. It's the beginning of the month. Let's make it count.